Hello boys, girls, in-betweeners, welcome to what is the first episode of the Mixup. Now, what is the Mixup? Well, it's a weekly show that I'm going to do every Sunday where we talk about everything from news, hot topics, to just everything related about the FGC, because I have a lot of discussions with people in comments and on streams, and I want to try and get those opinions out there and see if you guys agree with them or see if you disagree with them. Those are also good things as well, so I'm looking forward to seeing how this goes. So the first episode is something that I've wanted to talk about for a long time. It's something I have talked about from time to time in the past, and that's tiers. Specifically tiers in Street Fighter. Now, for those of you who don't know what tiers are, basically what tiers are is they're a system of ranking for characters to determine how good they are on paper, what tools they have available to them, what their frame data is like, what options they have, things like that, and basically is a way to determine which characters are better than other characters. Now, there's no tier list which is definitive. Capcom doesn't release a tier list, it's always released by players or members of the community or anything else, and they're always up for debate. But generally there tends to be, with some small obvious deficiencies varying from person to person, they're generally pretty concurrent. There's a lot of agreement in terms of what tiers are, and you can even have tier lists which are community based, which is the ones that we're going to be looking at today. Now, a brief history of me with tiers. For anyone who's been watching Salty Warrior for a long time or been to any of my streams and asked me about this, I've always said that tiers don't really matter, that unless you're a pro level player, that basically a tier is just, it's nothing, it's just a bragging right kind of thing, because it just comes down to how good you are with the character and how good a player you are overall. Now, why are tiers important? Well, I mean, that's pretty obvious. If there's a character that is good, or a team of characters is good that has a lot of synergy depending on the game that you're playing, whether it's Street Fighter Cross Tekken, or Marvel, or anything else, you can look at that tier list and basically say, okay, I can pick these characters, I will have a percentage better chance of winning on paper. It's a statistical advantage, and it goes anywhere from just your casual matches all the way up to the highest echelons of Evo. Unless you're a character specialist, people are always going to pick a character when they're playing competitively, which will give them some kind of an advantage. And this, of course, is why balance patches are required. Now, you look at a game like Overwatch, when you get balance patches there, sometimes those balance patches are really just designed to shake up the meta, to get people playing different characters rather than the same teams all over and over again. But in a fighting game, not even just in Street Fighter itself, when you get a balance patch, it's there to make everyone more even, to give everyone a better chance of winning. And that's really important if you are running a character who is considered to be low tier. Another really good example that happened very recently of where tiers are important are, if you go back and look at the 2016 EVO Finals, in Season 1 of Street Fighter V, the top 8 was completely just Chun-Li and Nash with one Armika. That was it. It was the most boring possible combination of characters to watch play out. It was terrible, which is why I'm really glad that Season 2 brought us a lot more variety in the 2017 EVO Finals. Now, I'm in what I think is a fairly unique position to talk about tiers because, as you all know, I main Juri, who is commonly agreed by pretty much everyone on the face of the earth, aside from a few people, which we'll talk about in just a moment, to be the lowest tiered character in the game. She is, out of the 28 characters in Street Fighter V right now, she is the lowest of the low. She is ranking dead last, well behind Ryu, who is second last. And what's interesting about this is that every time I bring this topic up when I'm on a stream, there'll inevitably be at least one person who will say that they don't agree with that they don't agree that she is low tier, they don't agree that she needs buffs as a result of being low tier, that she's fine the way that she is. And they'll usually cite some examples like Infiltration winning a CPT event in Brazil, which happened quite recently, although if you want to get really technical, he just had to fight his way through a bunch of Rashids. Aside from that, there are obviously Diamond and Master Rank Juries as well, so if she's trash tier, how could people get her that high? How could they get to Diamond and Master and beat everyone else? Those are the usual kind of arguments that I see trotted out. And honestly, I don't really agree with those arguments. If you want to look at the first example of Infiltration, he's Infiltration. He is one of the best players on the face of the earth right now. He can make any character look good. If you go back to Street Fighter 4 EVO Finals, he played Hakan against PL Balrog. Fucking Hakan, and he won. He can make any character look good, and because that's how good he is, which again is something that I want to talk about. But speaking more broadly, a better player can just mitigate through raw skill some of the small disadvantages or major disadvantages they might get from having a particular character in their roster. Because playing a top tier character does not guarantee a win. If you play badly, like I said, you will definitely lose. Tiers are really just there as a way to give you an extra set of tools if you're looking for a mathematical way to achieve victory. Alright, so let's look at this current state of the tiers in Street Fighter V. If you want my opinion, I don't think it's a very balanced game at the moment. I think it's still quite unbalanced and still has a ways to go, which is fine. Street Fighter 4 took a long time to get to be balanced. From the initial vanilla version in 2008, it had to go all the way through to Ultra for it to be a game that had a roster which a lot of people would consider to be quite well and evenly balanced. But if we want to look at a list which is community voted, we can go over to the event hubs, forums, and check out the list of current tiers they have there. And I just want to run through the top 10 and bottom 10 characters and see if we can see a particular trend emerging with the types of characters that we're going to see here. So let's start off with the top 10. Now, number 1, we've got Guile. Now, Guile is there for pretty obvious reasons. It's not because he's a rushdown monster, it's just because he has both exceptional offense and defense. The man can keep you out all day and he can lay on the hurt when he needs to. Right behind that at number 2 is Balrog. I mean, what can you say about Balrog? He is a damage monster. You can spend an entire round playing incredibly well against Balrog to get touched once and lose half your life. Cammy is number 3, and again we see this trend starting to emerge where you have a character who has exceptional pressure, frame traps, and damage output. Yes, she is a glass cannon, but that doesn't really matter too much when you can never actually get to hit her because she's always in your face. Urien slipped a little bit to number 4. Urien doesn't have quite the pressure that Balrog and Cammy do have, but he does have incredible pokes, a lot of tools available to him, and a crush counter which is amongst the best in the game with his standing fierce. Number 5 is Necalli, and my god, Necalli. This is the only character that for some absurd unknown reason which I have yet to fathom, Capcom absolutely outright refused to nerf the anti-air jab of. That alone makes him incredibly powerful because he can just anti-air jab you at any range he goddamn feels like. He's got an incredible crush counter, his V-trigger makes him an absolute beast, he's a very, very strong character all around with very few if any weaknesses. Rashid's, and what can you say there? Highly mobile, great damage, frame traps for days, mix-ups out the wazoo. He's an incredibly well-rounded character with a lot of tools to use at his disposal. Laura slipped a little bit, but that doesn't mean that she's still not incredibly powerful in this game. She is a 50-50 goddamn monster, and every time you guess wrong, you lose a hell of a lot of life. Incredible pressure, frame traps for days. She absolutely deserves her place in the top 10. Akuma is at number 8, and honestly I think he needs to be higher because Akuma is a character, when you look at him on paper, is absolutely incredible. You're talking about a character who has 3 different types of projectiles, not even including EX projectiles or V-trigger projectiles. He's got teleports, he's got a DP, he's got air fireballs, so you're always going to be terrified to anti-air him. He's got 2 different supers. And probably the most obnoxious thing of all is that he has 6 normals that are plus on block, including an overhead which is actually safe on block and can be comboed off of on hit. He has a crush counter that causes crumple state. He's got 6 more specials that are also plus on block. The guy is a monster all around. He is the true demon that his character has always intended to be. Number 9 is Karin. Karin is just exceptionally good all around. She has a lot of anti-fireball tools, she has fantastic pressure and absurd damage output, along with one of the best, if not the best, crush counters in the game with her standing fierce kick. And lastly, to round out the top 10, we have Ibuki. And Ibuki is obviously a character who doesn't really shine all that much until she gets her V-trigger started, at which point bomb mix-ups are the most insidious thing you've ever seen in your entire life. Now, did you see the common theme between a lot of these characters? The common theme is obviously that they are characters who can do ridiculous amounts of damage between them. They are all very high damage output characters, which is fine because Street Fighter V is a game that is designed to reward taking risks and being aggressive. You know, every time you block, you take a small amount of white life damage, and every time you get hit, it gets cashed out, and that adds up to a lot of damage over a round if you spend the whole time blocking, so you're better off going in and trying to get the damage instead. Now I'm going to run down the bottom 10 characters. Now I'm not going to go into detail with them like I did the top 10 because the answer for why they're bottom tier should be pretty obvious to you. It's kind of the opposite of why the top 2 characters are top tier. Let's run through them. At number 18 we have Birdie. At number 19 we have Armika. Number 20 is Vega. Number 21 is Abigail. Number 22 is Colin. Number 23 is Fang. Number 24 is Alex. Number 25 is Ed. Number 26 is Chun-Li. 27 is Ryu, and coming in dead last by a margin of 5 freaking points is everyone's favorite Juri. Now, what do you notice that is a common thread amongst those characters? Those are all characters that, with the exception of Abigail and Armika, are characters who are played as heavy spacing counter-style characters. They're designed to play the neutral game. In Fang's case, they're designed to keep you out. They're not designed to maintain sustained pressure like the top tier characters are. And that's kind of the problem. I think that Capcom are having a little bit of trouble. They've created a game which is really rewarding for those really big risks and really big offense bursts that I was talking about, but they don't quite know how to fit in characters who aren't built around that as an archetype. And it's creating the disparity in the tier lists that we're seeing today. So you're probably wondering to yourself, where does Juri fit into all this? Now, I've talked about this before, but historically Juri has always been low tier, except for Street Fighter Cross Tekken, where she was in fact top 5. She wasn't just top 5, she was nerfed 3 times and she was still top 5 in that game. By contrast, in Ultra Street Fighter 4, she was buffed 3 times leading up to it, and only when it got to Ultra was she considered to be a strong, solid character. There was a lot of people saying she was being slept on, but the general consensus was that she wasn't that good until Ultra. Which brings us up to Street Fighter V, and in Street Fighter V in Season 1, she was complete trash. If you think that she's bad now, you should have seen her back then. She had a horrible V-skill. Her V-skill was not nearly as good as it is now. She had even more limited combo potential. She had garbage DPs with no invincibility on them. She was just a really bad character. In Season 2, however, she did improve substantially. She got a lot better. I mean, that is to Capcom's credit. The problem is, though, is that they didn't buff her enough. She's still pretty average in a game full of characters who are all amazing. In Season 2.5, she also received no buffs, which if you go back and look at the video they made back then was a source of absolute rage and contempt for me. I couldn't believe it that she got no buffs, and not only that, did she not get no buffs, she actually got nerfed! They actually gave her one change, and that was reducing the efficacy of her anti-air jab, while again, leaving the Kalis alone for unknown reasons. This all put together leads me to believe that Capcom aren't really sure how to balance such an unconventional character archetype. The thing you gotta remember is that she was a very new type of character when she came along Street Fighter 4. They hadn't made a Street Fighter character before which had a counter move, which was built on storing projectiles, things like that. She was very strange and unusual, and I think to this day, Capcom are kind of worried that they might, the smallest change might overbuff her, that might turn her into an absolute monster, which might turn her into the kind of character that we saw in Street Fighter Cross Tekken, where they just couldn't get her down to the level of everyone else. So they're being very conservative about how they build her and how they build her up from the ground, trying to make sure they only give her the absolute smallest improvements until she can get up to a level where she's on par with everyone else. They're erring on the side of caution, really, is what I'm trying to say. So what does this all mean? Well, hopefully when Season 3 comes along with the release of Arcade Edition, it will come with a balance patch that will rebalance the game. There's no reason to believe that we won't get a balance patch for Season 3, but at the same time, nothing has been announced to date. And while it is definitely true that tiers don't matter while you're at lower levels, I've found that as I've improved as a player and as I've grown and gotten better, the further up that you do go, the more they begin to start to be felt. They're not a true handicap, they're not something which is going to limit your ability completely, but you do start to notice little situations where you're like, man, I wish my character was as good as yours. It would make my life easier. But that is it for this video. I've said all I've wanted to say. Please, if you enjoyed this video, share it around. Toss it on your Facebook. Can you toss it on Instagram? I don't know, I don't actually use mine. Put it out on social media, because I do want to keep making more episodes of the Mix-Up, but I'm only going to make them if people watch them, because they require a fair bit of work to do all the recording, to do all the editing, all that kind of hoo-ha. It's a lot harder than just recording a stream and chucking it up on YouTube. So please, if you enjoy, make sure you let me know and show it around to your friends, and hopefully this can be quite the ongoing series. Also, leave a comment below for a topic you'd like to see discussed in a future episode of the Mix-Up. Is there something else you want to talk about? Do you want to talk about different games? Do you want to talk about the channel? Do you want to talk about the FGC? Is there something that's been bugging you about fighting games that you just want to know about? Let me know in the comments below, and if it's a good question, it will definitely be in an upcoming episode. But that is it for me now, guys. I hope you enjoyed. As always, kisses, hugs, and belly rubs. I will see all of you very soon.